Hello.
Hey everybody, it's been a while.
Here we are, putting even more data on my D drive that will sit here for well, let's put this up right away.
Yeah, that's a pretty good idea.
Yeah. I can't hear anything.
Yeah, you normally can't hear anything.
But it's not off. The audio isn't off. We simply can't hear. Well, it doesn't matter.
This is a pretty lame way to start a Trex.
Oh, God, whatever,
Complaining
man.
about technical difficulties?
It's
These
been
people
a
know
long
from
time.
technical
I've
difficulties.
forgotten how to make trucks. I hope we still.
Oh yeah.
I hope we can still do it.
That is a problem.
There might not be any trucks sound on this episode. Who knows? Who cares?
Oh boy, that would stink.
Oh wait, I hear it. I hear my thing. Just no engine. Okay, we're fine.
Yeah.
Everything's good.
Hey everybody, it's a Trucks episode, and we are going to talk today about the fact that there are video games
But
in the world around you.
turning in a truck. Also, this is our frozen food.
It's been so long.
This is
since
the
we've
area
done this.
around Venice, believe it or not.
No, it's not. We're in Slovakia. We're going to Venice.
Oh, you're right. I thought we were starting at Venice. Okay.
Yeah.
We're going.
Can't
to
you
Venice.
tell immediately from the trucks that this is Slovakia?
Okay, so video games. Our subject is video games.
Our subject is in particular. Let's be positive about video games. Let's say nice, positive things.
Yes, and as a
because it's been
preamble
hard to be
to-
positive about video games.
As a preamble to
recently.
our positive things about video games, let's say some negative things.
Can you believe the Gamergate is still happening, everybody?
It's still happening.
We didn't talk about it when it was in its first throes because we were too
decided
depressed.
we decided that it was too stupid and hopefully too insignificant.
that it would blow over immediately, but
Yeah.
it's still happening somehow.
Do you know what Gamergate thing happened today?
What Gamergate thing happened today, Josh? Enlighten me.
Lee Alexander is the editor-at-large for Gamasutra, which is a webpage for game development types.
That's not pronounced Gama Sutra.
Boop. And anyway, I'm just going to run this yellow light. And someone wrote Intel, who sometimes runs ads on Gamasutra, saying, you know, that website has published some highly controversial things by an author named Lee Alexander.
Oh, really?
Including this Gamers Are Dead article. You remember that whole rush? Oh my god, okay. I don't know if this game even cares about stop signs.
That was highly controversial.
Um,
Highly controversial. It sure offended some.
some
Wait a minute.
nerds.
Yeah, I don't remember there being an outcry
I mean, there was, just not
among
among anyone worth
anybody
taking
who matters.
seriously.
Yeah.
Anyway, Intel pulled their ads from Gamasutra.
Did they really?
They did. They really did. They absolutely did. They did it. There aren't any Intel ads on Gamasutra anymore.
Wow.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
They don't want to alienate their core demographic of frustrated loser nerds.
Or something. It's possible that they just didn't do any fucking research into the complaint
And
that they received.
Can this happen more? Can we target any website
Probably.
and just start emailing advertisers at random and dink them off one by one?
Maybe. I mean, now there's a really stupid war being fought in Intel's feedback box, where people are saying, "Oh, thank you for not supporting hate speech," and other people are saying
Hate speech.
Yeah, some people call that kind of stuff hate speech, and others are obviously saying you have kind of, you've hitched your wagon to the wrong crowd here, Intel.
Yeah, do you realize what exactly it is that you're... I mean, because they don't. And why would they? Why would they know what's going on here? Because what is going on here is so mind-numbingly stupid. How do you... I mean, that's the question, right? How do you explain Gamergate to somebody who is not in the culture?
Yeah.
We've struggled with this.
We're
in
not
the
even
past.
going to attempt it.
We're not
are
even
we?
going to attempt it here. Or maybe a brief précis would be...
Okay,
useful.
Gamergate. How did it start again? Oh, right. Oh, God, I don't want to.
No, I don't want to either. Let it be.
If you
let
have
it be
to.
known that scared misogynist gaming has metastasized into a social movement,
Yes.
and this is being treated with
Hilarious
gravitas by the people inside it, and with justified incomprehension and scorn by everybody else.
Yeah.
Essentially. the extent to which this has actually breached the mainstream discussion, there was like a New Yorker article about how, Zoe Quinn got a bunch of death threats. And
Guardian wrote about it.
Guardian wrote about it and
some
had to publish a fucking disclaimer on their website that the person who wrote it vaguely knew some of the people involved, because that is the kind of thing that these guys are getting their panties in a bunch about. Yeah. So
let's not talk about
let's
this.
not talk about this. That's the thing. It's like we need to be like, there are like lovely, sane people out there making lovely games.
Yeah. And
games that we enjoy.
What are some
that are not like inherently evil? They don't have to be like, envelope pushing and awesome. I mean, and like socially conscious and making points about gaming and gameplay. They can just be good.
They can just be
and
good.
That's just enough. And
I know one you've been playing is Nuclear Throne.
Nuclear Throne. I'm in love with Nuclear Throne, and like on a really sort of limbic system level. The Nuclear Throne was made by the guys at Vlambeer.
Also known for Left Trousers and Super Crate Box.
Yes, and Extreme Fishing, or Ridiculous Fishing. That's what it's called.
Fishing.
Ridiculous Fishing. An app that you might have played up on your smartphone.
Worth it.
Yeah, pretty good one. Vlambeer specialize in game feel.
Screen shake.
Screen shake, game feel. In fact, they've done presentations where they take a basic, simple, boring game that nobody would be interested in, and make it irresistible just by adding like MSG, essentially, by adding screen shake, by adding like
a little kickback,
when you fire your gun, everything that makes it more tactile,
explosions,
more immersive. Yeah, basically just things shaking.
Yeah,
a lot of shaking going on, and I mean we make this sound like a cheap trick when we describe it.
Oh,
but
there's a lot of work that goes into it.
It is so like just the difference between making a game that feels cheap and making a game that feels like you're pouring gravy on yourself.
Yeah.
There's nothing like inherently special about the kind of game that Nuclear Throne is. It's you shoot things. It's a top-down shooty.
There aren't that many roguelike shooters. It's not really a true roguelike.
Nor is
it a true shooter, but it is you're right that there's nothing super special about its genre, but I don't want you to undersell it either. It is a hard to find combination of genres.
Mm-hmm. And the way that it's pulled off is very nice. The order of stages is always the same, and you can always be confident about what kinds of enemies you'll find at a given point in the game, and you can plan for that. Ooh, nice job. The bus is completely empty though, except for that one person in the back. So
I'm glad we had this experience.
Yeah, that's lovely.
Excuse me, everybody.
There was exactly one human being on that bus instead of the driver, and they chose to sit all the way in the back. What made that decision for them, I wonder? Anyway, good choice though. Good choice. So you always know like it's sort of what to expect, but the stage layout and also the difficulty level is randomly assigned.
The difficulty levels are randomly assigned. That's determined by your progress through the game.
No, it's not.
Really?
No. The difficulty level, as somebody who's logged a lot of hours playing this lately, there may be esoteric, algorithms determining what the difficulty level is for any stage, but you can get a much harder stage 1 sometimes than you get other times.
Not the difficulty level that it announces when you die, but just the number of enemies that happen to be there.
Yeah, I'm not entirely certain that that difficulty level number that it announces when you die is completely linear with the level increase either.
Interesting.
Although somebody presumably knows this, but it has a good. There will be times when you will be dropped into hell.
Right.
And there will be times when you won't.
Suffice it to say, the game doesn't play out quite the same way any two times. And, I mean, there's a number of clever ways that it accomplishes this. There's the usual, like the enemies and the layouts are randomly dotted around. and the weapons you'll get are different, and there's a random character button, which is my favorite thing in any game.
I love random character buttons. I play with the random character button 99% of the time.
Right, and the characters in this game, being a roguelike, all have somewhat different abilities that'll make your playthrough rather distinct. But what I am especially impressed by are the little moment-to-moment mechanics that kind of sneak up on you. One in particular is that the end boss of the first set of stages, the way he will appear is by always ambushing you from just one random wall on the stage somewhere. So you know what stage he's going to appear on if you're paying attention, but you don't know if he's going to appear just ahead of you or just behind you,
or what time during the stage.
Yeah, exactly.
That's also variable. The thing, their attention to detail is the thing. First of all, this game is not finished yet. It's still in pre-release.
Right, but it feels like.
But it feels like a finished game, and it's been in pre-release for how many years?
I don't know, 3 years.
Yeah, and they're still adding things to it. Every couple of weeks they release a patch, and it's just loving. That's the word for it. It's like they're all. It's so full of little surprises and little Easter eggs and like alternate skins for your characters and alternate like music that comes in at random and like secrets.
The alternate music deserves to be talked about a little more. Like, the first stage, the desert, has this kind of hard rockin' theme, and as the game goes on, the music gets a little bit more dramatic and intense, but not by much. It's all like fun video game music. But like very rarely, I can't even say how rarely, it's only happened to me once, and I've probably launched this game. I've probably started runs in this game like over 100 times now.
Yeah.
Like it just randomly plays this super stripped down like acoustic guitar and flute version of the theme, like which and not even like a dancey acoustic guitar and flute, like a very an Ennio Morricone kind of cowboy western, like, and I think it's very Morricone now that I think about it. There's like a string section that comes in. It's very good, the bad, and the ugly. Ecstasy of Gold kind of take on it, which is just it. And something about the rarity of it kind of makes it feel like a moment, like that's underscored by the drama of the music.
Absolutely. Like the vibe in the game generally toes the line between like, gung-ho hardcore and, tragedy.
Yeah.
In the flavor text, which is once again superb. And in the way that it proceeds, it like a lot of the time, the music will be driving, but the fact that it sort of lays out sometimes and gives you this very sparse accompaniment to the carnage.
Yeah, and occasionally there's no music.
Yeah,
like it seems to happen when you reset.
After you kill a boss.
Oh yeah, then you're left without any music.
And you haven't cleared the stage. You're left without any music.
Occasionally, I do a quick restart and it starts me on stage 1 with no music, which is interesting.
That's odd. I haven't encountered that. But so point being is that there's a lot in here.
Yes.
And one of the ways that this is reflected is in another thing about the game that I love, which is the world building. We'll link to the thing that I did.
Yes. Isaac got immersed.
I got sufficiently immersed. It's like I love this kind of storytelling in games where everything is done via little environmental details and some of those details take the shape of like in between stage text blurbs where you would normally like have a hint.
Yeah.
But it's all very brief and all very missable. And so you're left to and the lore of the game is sort of caught up in a bunch of the other games that they've done over the years, but not in a way that makes you miss anything if you aren't familiar with it.
Not even in a very serious way.
Yeah, and so it's just like there's this sense of richness, and that particularly, and this is something that I want to highlight, one always wants to have the feeling that the authors of a given piece know way more about the world than ends up in the piece, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
This sort of sense that there is sort of a well-developed kind of lore which informs the decisions made about what goes into the work, so everything feels like it's part of a coherent whole, but you don't have Peter Dinklage explaining everything to you. Although we'll talk about that. There is the particular way that works is also interesting and fun. but you don't have to deal with sort of an oppressive amount of world.
Yeah.
And you can make things up on your own to fill in the gaps, which is what I did because I am a geek. But that's sort of like the part of your brain that is playing a shooty game but also wants to think of a story to go along with it is very well served by this kind of like beeping and bopping.
It is funny.
That meant nothing. I don't know why I said it.
It made a certain amount of sense.
Yeah.
You're saying that there are.
It was just beeping and bopping that didn't make any sense.
No. By the beeping and bopping, you mean
this
the moment
judicious
to moment
approach to storytelling via. Why are we jiggling so much? What happened?
I think we were on kind of the rim there. But no, I got what you meant. You meant that there's more to the game than than the tangible part, than the second to second gameplay. There's also this ephemeral aspect.
Yeah.
The beeping and bopping is
the beeping and bopping.
That's the floaty jumping.
And frankly, like awesome character design helps with that.
Yeah,
a fair piece.
Sure. It's interesting how so many things that I appreciate in games these days, including everything you just said about Nuclear Throne, bear the mark of Dark Souls, even though the game has no similarity to Dark Souls whatsoever. Like, it's just part of my brain always wants to go, oh yeah, that's what makes Dark Souls work too. But the funny thing, the game that I'm kind of impressed with at the moment, and I don't own this game yet. I got to play it, and I expected to be much less impressed than I was. The game in question is Destiny.
Yes, and it's actually kind of, how would you say the critical reaction is to Destiny as a whole? Because
I would say that
I
would say that the critical reaction continues to form consensus. Actually,
it's still sort of.
I think this game has actually kind of called a lot of people's attention to the problem with the review format that we have going nowadays, in which they have to review it quickly.
Yeah,
and
because games unlike say your CD or your novel, they're not. I want to use the word synchronic and diachronic here, but I can't remember what the fuck they mean, so we're going to leave that aside. But games happen over time, and like MMOs,
especially games like Destiny, which draw some aspects from MMOs.
Yeah, happen over long periods of time, and their goodness is in their evolution.
But you know what? I played a few missions of Destiny, and I've watched some on YouTube, and my initial thoughts when I got my hands on the game were, well, this is fun. Like, this is clearly a game from the makers of Halo, which is, I think it's fair to say Halo is probably the game that got first-person shooters feeling right on a gamepad. And that's no small task, and this game further refines that. It's not so much a game from the makers of Marathon, one of my favorite shooters of all time, and I will always be sad that the Bungie we know is no longer the Bungie we once knew. But that aside, I played this game and I was having fun shooting the aliens, but it didn't feel like it was going that much deeper than that. There was a lot that was laughable about the script. It's loaded down with completely unfamiliar proper nouns that it makes no effort to explain. It kind of felt like a janky attempt at borrowing some plays from Dark Souls, in that it seems to want to refer to a larger lore that maybe the developers do know a thing or two about, but
you get the impression that it was written by 20 different interns in 20 different rooms, piecemeal.
Maybe. I'm not even convinced about that. But I just think that whoever was in charge of creating this script had no idea how to dramatize any of the history they may or may not have imagined. Especially since you're coming in at the end of it, and what you're doing... Like, in Dark Souls, you're coming in at the end of the story arc of the world, right? And that seems to be what Destiny's going for as well. But nothing you do actually has any connections to anything that's happened before. It's just that the bad thing is coming back, and you have to shoot it until it stops. Right, and it's
a time-honored approach.
Yes, and it's hard to make that a really interesting story. But here's the thing: after digesting it for a day or two, I just kind of kept thinking about the level or two that I had played, and I thought, wait a minute, there are actually shades of brilliance to this. in a way that reminds me of Half-Life, actually. I always thought that, especially Half-Life 2, what always really impressed me about Half-Life 2 was the way it handled the interdimensional aspect of the antagonist group, the Combined, and the way it really felt oddly convincingly as though the game takes place entirely on planet Earth, but it's a planet Earth which is being ruled over by a race, really just puppet governmented by a race, which has requirements of this planet that have nothing to do with the way our planet works, or with even how its space-time works, right? Like, the enemies are like these weird machines that appear to be made from living matter, that have clearly come from some creepy portals, and like there's the level where you're driving along the coast and you can look out and see that the shoreline has receded massively in the past few years, because there's all these boats like just kind of dotting the beaches,
right?
Things like that. And when you finally see the highest order of the Combine, the advisors in episode 2, they're like in these super simple bodies that appear to have been fabricated solely so that they can exist in this reality, right? It's like a bean. It's like a flying bean that telepathically affects things around it. And I thought that shit was so cool. And Destiny's actually doing some sort of similar things, I feel. I played this level where you had to blow up a shrine, and no one explains why you have to blow it up or what it is. But there are 2 alien groups fighting over it, so that's interesting. And it's in a cave on the moon, so that's interesting. But
the being caught up in the war between 2 uninterested aliens thing is very Marathon, actually.
It's also very Halo, yeah. But like, for the most part, while I was playing it, I was just like, this is kind of a generic mission in a cave on the moon. But there were 2 rooms in this mission that made a big impact on me. One of them was when I walked into this chamber in which I had to fight a wizard, and there was this big...
There are wizards on the moon.
Yes. there was this chain, this giant chain. Oh God. Oh God. Oh no.
I've never seen you do that. I've never seen that happen in this game before. On a fucking bridge, no less.
Excuse me, everybody. I wish everybody would stop, you know?
No.
I wish they would just give me some room.
There are no humans in these cars. They are not interested in your problems. The life that you just ended was a virtual life. They understand this.
Anyway.
How did you do that so?
I think the speed limit decreased sharply without my noticing. Anyway.
It's a good thing we have so many heroes. Anyway, yes.
This room had a chain in it, a giant chain that led out through the ceiling and led out through the floor, and both to like this eerie blue glow that prevented you from seeing any further. And I was playing this with my buddy Zach, and we're just like, what's this chain? Like, at the time it was just like, what a funny and weird detail. But like, gradually it kind of became apparent to me that there's something very deliberate about that chain, and I don't know what it is, but it's intriguing. And the end of the level, we finally saw the shrine, and it didn't look like a shrine. It looked more like a creepy machine with claws that were etching shapes into a black sphere, which instantly regenerated its smooth surface, and that's what we had to blow up. And when my little robot analyzed the source of it, so I gotta get some fuel. When my little robot analyzed the source...
I remember when you were good at this game.
When my little robot analyzed the source of this thing's shielding, it said, oh, it's drawing power from way outside of the solar system. That's funny. I hope I don't open an interdimensional rift. And then he just went about it, and then I had to fight a boss and blow up a shrine. And I admire the nonchalance with which it introduces signs that the universe is way beyond human comprehension, you know?
You were telling me that the impression that you got was that it's sort of, it wants to be like Dark Souls.
Out of my way.
It wants to be like Dark Souls and
this is working.
It wants to be like Dark Souls in in the sort of the vastness of the world and in the little interconnected bibbly-bobs.
Right.
Except that one gets the impression that nothing is in fact connected at all, and so it has a sort of like...
The connections are super unclear if they exist.
Yeah, so it's like...
It's not like Dark Souls 2 where I can see evidence that there aren't connections.
Right.
It's rather just I can't see any evidence that there are.
So it's like an open question to whether it is like a Dark Souls 2 where things are just sort of glued together, or whether it's like Dark Souls 1 except like it's going to evolve over a very long period of time, which is interesting. That's interesting in and of itself, but it also makes it like a good game in potentia.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, God. And being a good game in potentia seems to be a big part of the idea of Destiny.
Yes,
which
is interesting. I mean, they clearly have a plan.
Yeah, I think they have somewhat of a plan. I mean, I can see
oh, boy.
I don't know what's happening anymore.
Out
of my way, everybody.
We're the worst truck driver
Everything is virtual.
in the history of the world.
I think the first step to being a good truck driver in Eurotruck is to realize that nothing matters.
That food
Everything is permitted.
no longer frozen.
Nothing is true. Yeah.
But anyway, but yeah, so it's like...
No, yeah, there's a lot of signs that this game could totally go places that are pretty dope. I mean, like 500 million hours into the game, there's a raid, which apparently puts everything else in the game to shame. And that's interesting. Like, to me, that is interesting. To a lot of people, it's a problem because they want to play this game and they want to see the best that it has to offer. But you know,
maybe that's not how this works.
It's just not how this one works, and
that's good
for Activision. That's really something. I mean, that's a step toward the unsafe.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like this is a mistake they made by accident.
It's totally deliberate.
It's a deliberate choice about how they want the game to be played. They're trying to using the game. They're trying to use the game design to influence the player base's culture.
Yes.
Which is always a worthy thing to attempt, in my opinion.
And it's too rarely attempted in the world of MMOs, really.
Yeah.
Like, it used to be that MMOs would kind of tease at their future content and make everybody feel like a part of a larger narrative. I remember EverQuest did that. Asheron's Call did that.
I mean, the success of World of Warcraft basically sort of created a different model.
Yeah, a much more boring model that really only the people who like World of Warcraft like.
There are enough of them.
There are enough,
well, I mean,
but they're all playing World of Warcraft.
Right, well, that's the thing. It's like people have been trying to do a World of Warcraft killer for years and not realizing that World of Warcraft does the thing that the World of Warcraft audience wants perfectly.
Right.
And so it's time to maybe look at another demographic for something like this.
Bungie have basically said, what if Halo were an MMO? Like, oh, that could pull in a lot of dollars.
There's a lot of Xbox kids out there.
So soon I'll probably be playing the shit out of this game. It's intrigued me.
So yeah, positive things to say about an indie game, positive things to say about a AAA like super big deal game.
Yeah.
I'm also a fan of the other Vlambeer games. I think that Super Crate Box is just about a perfect little...
Really makes your fingers hurt.
It really does. It's a perfect little brain stimulator.
Yeah.
Perfect little Twitch app. And Luftrausers will teach you something interesting about World War II.
Sort of.
There was some controversy about that at the time. Like, why are you playing as Nazis? And
there should be more games where you play as Nazis. I'm gonna say that. There really ought to be more games where you play as Nazis.
To explain why there ought to be more games where you play as Nazis, Josh.
Because it's an underexplored perspective.
Just in and of itself?
Yes. I mean...
But they're evil, Josh. Why would we want to explore an evil perspective?
Well, you need to have a certain amount of tact in addressing this subject matter.
There was an open question about whether that tact was present in Luftrausers or not.
I would say...
But answer my original question before we get to that point.
Okay. Well,
why is role playing from the perspective of something that's...
I will explain why I find
the most clearly evil thing that one can think of in recent world
I'll explain
history.
why I find Luftrausers to be interesting.
All right.
It's a game which is pretty much about a particular quirk of the German war machine after it became clear to the German war machine that it wasn't going to win the war. They started designing and prototyping just crazy fucking planes. Like, you remember that weird helicopter missile thing from the first Captain America movie? Sounds pretty crazy, right? It's based on a real design that the Nazis came up with. It was this vertical takeoff and landing thing where instead of wings, it had a spinning rotor with a rocket strapped to it. And you know what? It flew.
Not very accurately.
I mean, it flew. I think the biggest problem with it was landing it. Oh god, there was another one where they so here they were faced with this problem, right? They were faced with the problem that every time they send out a fleet of bombers, it's one or two of them is bound to get shot down, right?
Right.
And that's just not efficient for the amount of damage that they're doing, the payload that they could deliver. So what if we just took one of these old airframes that we're not using anymore from an old bomber and just filled it with explosives?
Oh, like the turrets in Portal.
Yeah, literally just filled it with explosives, and it still has an engine. So you strap this big bomb plane to a fighter, and you have the fighter fly it out to somewhere, aim it in the general direction of a city, and just kind of let it go. And the bomber plane would fly, like using its engines maybe a little bit and its wings to just glide toward the city. And
this sounds insanely dangerous.
It didn't fucking really work because of accuracy issues was the main thing. But you can tell that whoever was doing that math, like, we will only spend one airframe, and it'll deliver more explosives than an entire fleet of bombers. You could tell whoever was doing that math wished that they could just put a guy in the cockpit, right?
Yeah.
Just put a guy in the cockpit who will fly it to its target. And you know what? The Japanese, in a similar situation, designed a plane designed to be flown into things. Like, they didn't just do that with planes that already existed. They designed a plane for it. So, Luftreisers is a game about that. It's a game
about desperation.
Yes, it's a game about desperation, and it frames itself in a world where the Germans really did design the superplane.
Right.
And you are its pilot, and your life expectancy may only be a few seconds, but you're going to take out a whole bunch of allies like with you, right?
Yeah.
It's about a lot of things in that. I mean, that's a big fucking thing to bite off in a bite-sized little arcade game, and I admire it for that.
Do you think that you have to already know much of what you're saying to really appreciate that?
Possibly.
I mean, because the visual style of the game is certainly very like camp 80s arcade machine, and 80s arcade machines were full of this kind of shit in a completely like unreconstructed and unthinking way.
Right. I mean, I think that there's some tone work done in the game to suggest that this is what's being talked about, and there's certainly a tone of hopelessness. The tutorial like clearly expresses that, you know, you're flying a plane that no human can really fly, mm-hmm. and this is basically just an effort to do damage before you meet your glorious end.
Yes.
And whether or not you realize that that's a real thing that happened, I think it's possible to recognize that it's a feasible thing that might happen during a war.
Yeah, and it tells us like what is actually one of the most interesting things about World War II, which is that it went on for far longer than it would have if there was any sanity left in any of the parties involved. It teaches you about the distinction between war and total war. Yeah,
the nation just kind of learns to dedicate itself to war entirely.
Yeah.
But there's also simulators. Simulators are very interesting, and my brother plays a lot of flight sims and tells me about them often. And one of the interesting things that arises from flight simulators is like you really develop a deep sense of familiarity with the real flight characteristics of the military hardware that both sides were using at the time, and you learn about like the way the German planes had to handle the British planes during the Battle of Britain and vice versa, and like why the designs of those planes may have like led to the way that battle's outcome. You learn about the tactics that had to be employed by the pilots. Like in some cases, you even develop tactics that those pilots didn't have time to develop because they could only fly like during human hours, whereas in a simulator, you can do it always.
Do you think that this teaches us anything that is actually important? I mean, besides like a sort of an alarming tendency to think of to come around to the idea that engineering is destiny, and this sort of like guns, germs, and steel, mindset.
I mean, I don't think that the particulars of the way those planes interacted are important, but I do think that it's a valuable mental exercise to become acquainted with something like that.
Because?
Well, because it's a lot of data to gather and to extrapolate from, and doing that just on the most basic of levels is always going to keep your brain strong. It's brain exercise.
Okay.
But on another level, which is a little more difficult to express, I do think it provides a lens on history, which is always valuable. It's a very particular lens, but it can be extrapolated. I mean, my brother has extrapolated it to say a lot of interesting things about the war and the intentions of the various nations involved.
I think that it's always good to have an in. I think that anything that makes people think about history is good,
right?
As a basic matter, and I think that while there's always a risk of developing kind of myopia if one's focus is as narrow as this might seem to be, I think that if you are open to thinking about the ways in which these gaming experiences reflect a larger reality and what lessons we can draw from the feeling of being immersed in this game.
Yeah, exactly. I think there are a few better ways to encourage a person to study a topic than to craft an experience that immerses them wholly in some particular aspect of it.
Absolutely. And the fact that the back of my brain was busy filling in all of the gaps in the world that Nuclear Throne presented to me is, I think, a demonstration of that, although that, of course, is fiction.
Right. I mean, even that is a valuable exercise in some cases, if you're the kind of person, as we both are, who sometimes write fiction.
Absolutely.
So we don't have to feel too guilty about that.
No, I don't think so at all.
Oh God.
God damn it, Josh. The last couple of episodes of Trucks.
Next time that's happening, you know what I'm gonna try?
What?
I'm gonna try, and instead of spamming my slow down buttons, I'm gonna hit enter. I'm just gonna keep hitting enter really fast to see if maybe the bar can be passed through when it's pulling up.
There's another important life lesson. If physics doesn't cooperate, try to break the system.
Yeah.
So, speaking of games that I've been enjoying lately, I actually do want to talk briefly about Team Fortress 2. This is, Team Fortress 2 is interesting to me for a lot of reasons. One of them is that it is such a basic thing that is filled in so, enormously. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily via in-game hints, but instead via the community that surrounds it. Right. The sort of the fan behavior that I'm engaging in kind of a vacuum for Nuclear Throne has been, the evidence of it has informed and built the game for the last 6 years? 7 years?
More than that, probably.
Yeah, for the last incredibly long period of time that this game has been running and continually updating and continually accumulating. It's like Homestuck in that it draws the memes into itself and builds on them.
Yeah,
if you know what I mean. We're coming up into Saxy season. Saxy awards are awards given out by Valve to the person who makes the best video using Source Filmmaker. And Source Filmmaker is the video editing platform
that Valve
uses to make their own cinematics. And it's interesting because it is a 3D graphics software that can be used by the untrained, because these preloaded models are in it already and can be manipulated to your heart's content. It's actually, I've seen a lot of people who are aspiring animators who are sort of being trained up on this. Valve made this incidentally they didn't make it to as a sort of response to Gary's mod, because they clearly were already using it to make their own stuff.
Right.
But
they made it more accessible.
I think they made it publicly available because Gary's mod was so successful.
Yeah.
Which was a extremely janky effort to do the same thing.
I mean, Gary's mod began as a game which was simply to be a physics sandbox in the Source engine back when its physics engine was really impressive. But it gradually evolved into a machinima tool.
Yep, a machinima tool. And there's a lot of fascinating history behind that, which I'm fascinating. There's a lot of history behind that, which I don't, which I'm not.
With which you are fascinated.
With which I am fascinated, but not super familiar. And so, what we're getting to see in these videos, and particularly in the ones that aren't very good, because there are scads of them that aren't very good on YouTube, all of which have over 100,000 views, because that's, if you manage to put something like this together and release it, you're going to get that many eyes on it.
Yeah.
It's just it's really interesting to me how the aesthetic rules of this particular micro genre have evolved. These are people who are basically inventing filmmaking on their own.
Yeah.
And the early Gary's Mod videos, because of the limitations of Gary's Mod, have their own rules and their own visual and sound design style.
Yeah.
Are you looking for a canal?
I'm looking. I know. I'm just looking for the river, which will I'm looking for any sign of the island city beyond where we are right now, which is obviously we're not going to be in the island city.
I don't think it's in here, dude.
It's a shame. They usually give you some view onto the big important landmarks,
Yeah.
But we are apparently heading down to a dock, so that's appropriate. See that? That looks like a big ship, right?
It does, or at least a shipyard.
Yeah. You were saying?
I was saying that sort of had its own rule set, which was lovely, because anything that is created mostly by technical limitations, it was not quite like anything else.
Yeah. And
its visual language sort of infected the internet.
It sounded like you said by tentacle imitations. Tentacle imitations.
Of which there are many in Gary's Mod videos. That's how everybody moves.
He just did a thing. I'll maybe I'll play something in if I remember. Cool.
Oh yeah, check that out. It's super maritime over here in Venice.
Yeah.
You get your cruise ships like you do in Venice.
Let's check the damage. Oh.
Yeah, this is not going to be an excellent run. But the winning Saxby stuff from last year, it had an interesting sort of hybrid feeling between a Pixar short that you would get, people trying to be a Pixar short, that might feasibly run before an animated feature, while still using the idiom of Team Fortress.
Yeah.
Which is incidentally all of this. Basically, 90% of this happens in Team Fortress. Although there are a couple of very well done Dota videos this time around that I saw.
Anything for Counter-Strike?
Yeah, there are Counter-Strike videos in there too. There was one in particular in which a time bomb is strapped to a chicken and hilarity ensues.
That's good.
It's 4 minutes of bomb chicken shenanigans.
Counter-Strike has for a long time been the red-headed stepchild of Valve's efforts.
Well, it's not very visually interesting.
That's true.
I mean, this is a visual medium.
I would say it's a partially visual medium. They added achievements. Check it out. I just unlocked the min-maxer. Earlier, I unlocked the one for fueling my truck.
Oh my god. You know what?
Yeah.
You know what I'm really looking forward to is when they officially roll Nuclear Throne out and their achievements.
Oh.
Because that'll add achievements add a completely different, an additional layer to roguelikes, which I didn't realize until Binding of Isaac, but it totally changed the way that I interacted with Binding of Isaac. And,
let's unlock some eco-driving,
I guess so.
It'll make our fuel efficiency better. Yay. Green.
Yep. But anyway, so we didn't really get
it. Check it out. I bought a truck.
Oh, hey.
Bonus feature.
Hurrah. Look at that.
There it is. You'll never see it again. Goodbye.
Bye.
Whoa, hello. Isaac wanted to finish what he was saying.
Yeah, I was saying that part of the interesting thing about watching... Oh, Jesus. about watching these videos is that there's sort of this definite differential between a desire to transcend the nicheness of it, and to make a video that just reads as a cool video, period.
Yeah.
And like a desire to mine the incredibly rich meme scene that like currently exists in Team Fortress and just fill it with in-jokes. And like Valve is clearly not interested in the latter based on the success of past videos.
Oh, god damn it.
They're not interested in the meme scene. They want this to be like a, something that feels and looks pro.
Like this.
Yeah, like this wonderful game.
This is called Lethal League, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm the one with the yellow head.
Yep, he's the one getting destroyed, even though I'm the one who's trying to think about what I'm saying.
Subconsciously playing is the best way to play.
Yeah. But the other thing which is fun is that there are a bunch of different categories in this axis, right? There's like your shorts and your comedy and then an overall thing. But then there's the drama. And it's like what this particular audience thinks is drama is really fascinating because it's so bad. Like it's notably worse than anything else that it does.
Go get the ball.
Okay, fine. He can't jump high enough to get it, which is why that move is like not actually particularly effective, but oh fuck. Too late.
Here comes the comeback.
Here comes the comeback. Because the drama saxes are all about Scout, who is the player XP in basically all situations. Like some girl gets killed and Scout is out for revenge or something, or he's sad about it, and like...
Really?
Yeah.
I've never seen this.
No, well, that's the thing. You won't, because nobody outside the particular, community that creates these, will. But it's... Shit! But it's like... It's a total rundown of how shitty storytelling is, like storytelling instincts are among this particular audience, just for like the sort of people who are interested in this kind of story, who have basically unfettered run at this category.
You need the rematch?
I don't really, but let's do it anyway. This is fun.
His elbow is right up in my jam.
I'm totally not up in your jam. I'm moving my elbow and it's fucking me up. This is a fucking strategy.
My jam is free.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize that was your jam. That was very lucky.
This game got a lot easier once we realized that the thing on the bottom of the screen tells you where what the timing is going to be on the release of the ball.
So, yeah.
Oh fuck. Oh fuck.
Team Fortress is super cartoony, which means that it attracts a certain audience. And I'm one of that audience. I like super cartoony things, but it also is an audience full of like furries.
Gotcha.
And, and teenagers and people who are still teenagers at heart. And as a microcosm of a particular slice of the gaming community, it kind of makes those particular... The sexy drama category kind of makes shit like Gamergate feel
like it might actually...
Feel like it makes more sense to me, and feel like the people who are defending the sort of stuff that Anita Sarkeesian is making fun of aren't just doing it as a sort of a knee-jerk, get out of my art form foreigner kind of thing, but are in fact really invested in kind of damsel-y stories, if you know what I mean. It's kind of a terrible thing to contemplate.
You're right, it is. This is a depressing addendum we have made.
Yes.
What happened to being positive? Here we are. Lethal League is fun.
Well, I mean, part of it, I've been watching the shit out of SFM videos for like the last month because it's fascinating to me, and so it is something that's been bringing a certain amount of joy to my life. But that's also because I have a sort of a love for the terrible, and I will admit that. In addition to that.
Oh, thank God.
Oh God! No! Yes!
Jesus.
What? Not like it.
It was a good save.
How did...
Oh, you son of a bitch.
No, they can stop!
Hey!
And that's what this game is, ladies and gentlemen. It's basically just that. Just that.
Oh, fuck.
Enjoy.
No!
This one's tense. This one's tense. We're down to the wire.
I'm glad we could end on a real match.
Yeah. One was here in the process of... Yeah, enjoy.
Damn it.
The bunt giveth, the bunt taketh away.
The bunt is the cornerstone of the entire game.
The bunt is totally just the crowning glory of this fucking game, which I never use it. I really ought to, but it never occurs to me when I'm in the throws.
Oh God!
Oh God! Mutual fuck ups.
Oh Jesus! I thought I had that. I thought I had
Down
that.
to the last match. Who will win?
No! Oh, that was close. Jesus. This needs to stop. No!
Yeah, it stops now.
God. Okay.
And that's the way we do it, ladies and gentlemen.